Hello, welcome back to Eli Yaps, and today we are doing our very first episode of Why You Hate. This is going to be a series where basically I look at the characters that I personally enjoy and try and do the math on why people don't like them. Then that also doesn't mean that I'll never go into characters that aren't my personal favorite, but I'm gonna start off with the characters that I like because I think it's more interesting. If we start off with the characters that I like. This is also your warning that one, this will have spoilers. Two, this also is not a shot at anybody. It's not a shot at people who like him, and it's not a shot at people who don't like him. I could not care less about how you personally feel about a fictional character. We are going to start with the award-winning Baldur's Gate today, and we are going to start with my favorite male companion, Gale Dekarios. To prove that I am not a Gale hater, here's my work keychain. He lives on my work keychain. I love talking about him while I am in the store. Alrighty. Throughout this video, it should be a mix of me talking versus a mix of clips. I'm gonna try. Lies. Unfortunately, I did not have time to record clips for this video, so it's gonna be stills. For this part, once again, spoilers. The whole thing is, it's gonna be spoilers. There's gonna be spoilers in this entire thing. Of course there are, right? But very specific spoilers, because right now I am going to specifically go over this is what happens in his story. Also, there's a script, so if you see me looking at something, it's the script. I'm not trying to not look at y'all, I promise. Okay, anyway, I don't want to spend too much time rehashing what many of us have already seen. If you are not in the fandom, or if you have not romanced him yet, one, I would say, one, if you're not in the fandom but you're watching this video, that's cool. Two, if you haven't romanced him, go ahead and do it. Is he a little cheesy? Yes. Is he kind of frustrating at times? Absolutely. But what companion isn't crazy frustrating at times? I think you should romance him just so you can see the boat scene. Once you see the boat scene and you see where he takes you, I feel like that's worth it. But once again, I'm cheesy and I just want to be married happily somewhere. That's it. That's my goal in life. Go be married happily somewhere. So obviously I'm a Gale girly, whatever. Anyway, I do think it's important to do a quick overview of Gale's life. He resided in Waterdeep, got snatched up like the rest of us, abduction, brainworm, tossed. Well, I mean, he fell out of the ship, put himself on a rock. You found him. He tells you a little bit about himself. He was a child prodigy. He was the assistant and later lover of Mistra, who I have beef with. And after going out of his way to do something he was explicitly told not to do, he was let go of from that role, a nasty breakup. And now he is with you, skibbity doo on around. And he has crazy ambitions. He said he's going to become a god himself, and it's your job to talk him into it or out of it. Yeah, that's your story that you're getting. If you want to know more in depth, you're gonna have to go look for it. Sorry, Pookie. Sorry, Pookie. My first argument, and the one I believe is the least convincing, is that as a player, it's incredibly frustrating to see a capable character not unleash their full potential. This is not to say I blame Gale. He was groomed and basically made into the servant of a goddess he thinks he is nothing without. And because of this, he is almost left in a sort of paralysis. After his folly that left him with a bomb sealed in his chest, he basically sealed himself away in his tower, and the only thing keeping him alive is his cat, my bad, Tressum, who is bringing him items. Mistress Perception is everything to Gale, and if she says he's worthless, then to him, that's the god honest truth. It isn't until he meets Tab and is thrust into a situation where giving up will lead to a fate arguably worse than death for not only him, but others he's learning to care about, that forces him to be more than Mistress' former chosen. He must get up and decide to fight, which is honestly something very foreign to Gale. Gale was my first romance, and he's still my favorite male companion. Yet there were many times I was screaming his name at the TV at his learned helplessness. I won't pretend to understand what he's gone through, but to see a man so capable basically disarm himself due to words of a god you've never met and doesn't have much substance, It's beyond frustrating. It gives off the vibes you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. This frustration only gets worse when Elminster appears and informs Gale of Mistra's new decree that he is to find the Absolute and detonate, killing himself and anything slash body near him. Even if you are romancing him, he resigns himself to this fate, and you have to use your bond to convince him that there are other ways of killing the Absolute. There's even a moment at the end of Act 2 where he gets close to killing the Absolute, then threatens to detonate with you and your two other companions in the blast range. I honestly remember feeling so frustrated and helpless at having to talk him down from the ledge, and betrayed that he was willing to, at best, leave me widowed, and at worst, blown to bits, for another woman. Now, once again, I do understand he's dealing with deep seated trauma, but that did not erase my own emotions at seeing a man who claimed to love me willing to end our life together without even trying a different method to destroy the Absolute. That point brings me back to my main argument that Gale using his orb as a solution to problems gets old really fast. He is an incredibly talented man. He always has been. There is no reason that blowing up should be anywhere in the list of solutions. He may be Mistress' former chosen, but he was still chosen. Mistress still picked him, proving that he's capable. And since he went with her so young, he is clearly more capable than your average magic user. I spent a good chunk of the game convincing Gale that there are other ways and to at least try non lethal solutions. Oftentimes, Gale wouldn't even try using that big brain of his, and it's honestly a real shame. In the words of Astarion, it's a waste of a perfectly good Gale, I suppose. I want to preface this part with Gale has every reason to be totally and utterly taken with Mister. She whisked him away from his family super young, taught him how to use and manipulate the weave, and then made him her lover. She made being her chosen his entire being, so it's only logical he fell apart when core parts of what he believed gave him value was taken from him. She literally made herself his entire world. It was only really natural that he wants to join her godhood and be her true equal. At no point am I blaming Gale for being groomed. No one picks suffering like that. With that being said, Gale's history makes him an insanely obsessive soul. He's not really capable of being moderate about things. His beliefs and wants consume him entirely, and trying to rip him from these obsessive topics is not for the weak. The first inkling you get of his obsessive nature is how much and how often he talks about Mistra. Mistra is literally the source of his magical abilities. Fine, it makes enough sense, but at some points it does get insane. In your first romantic interaction with Gale, you find him longingly gazing at a replica created by his own magic of his ex-Mistra. From then on, he only talks endlessly about her, even if you are in a relationship with him. I personally feel like his obsession with Mistra feels even worse if you're dating him. Because it goes from just having a friend who simply talks too much about his ex to him being your lover who can't move past his ex and it's causing a rift in the relationship. Even with how romantic and loving he is towards Tav, it still feels really crummy to watch him still harbor feelings for another woman. Even if you can move past him standing Mistra, you must then deal with his yearning for the crown currently sitting atop the Absolute's head. The crown of Karsus is an extremely powerful crown that grants the wearer godlike powers. There are multiple characters all fighting to gain control of this crown and wield the magic in it whichever way they see fit. When Gale catches wind that there's even the slightest chance he could gain that crown, it is nearly all he talks about. From the very end of Act 2, almost the entirety of Act 3, Gale can't stop thinking about the potential power, and he even searches for your approval in his quest for godhood. I think Gale's obsessive nature spawns from his deep desire for validation. It's kind of like he's suffering from gifted kid syndrome. I imagine going from being a child who was told they were one of the smartest to being disowned by a goddess would greatly mess with your mental state, and you'd spend the rest of your days trying to recreate the praise you used to get as a kid. That's why Gale's best ending is giving up on his quest for godhood and becoming a professor. At first glance, it seems like a giant downgrade, but once you really truly understand his character and their journey, you realize that in him giving up, he's gained something no one can take from him, and that's being self-assured. He doesn't need anyone to tell him that he's enough and worthy anymore. He knows he has inherent value, something that God, Gale, and the version of him that uses the orb to destroy the Absolute don't have. Reason 3 is a little messy, but she's here. Who am I? Gale's identity crisis and his questionable moral compass. I think if you were to ask Gale, who are you, and tell him he can't use Waterdeep wizardry or a Mistra, he would be truly stumped. Sure, he can rattle off a few of his hobbies and likes such as wine, reading, and cats, but on a deeper, more foundational level, Act 1 Gale would be stumped on the question, especially if you forbade him from being negative about himself. Now, this isn't to say the man doesn't have a strong character. If you ask me, he's actually very resilient, incredibly loyal, almost to a fault, and compassionate. But that's not the point. The point is he can't see it, and that blindness leads to very infuriating, confusing moments. The first time my Taff and the crew found the Absolute, my Taff and Gale were already in an established relationship in which just the night before, Gale so romantically said if we didn't have brainworms, he'd have done things the correct way. And my Tav responding that she'll fight with him to destroy the Absolute. That way he can live and get the time to show me everything he wants. So imagine my shock when the next day we're standing in front of the Absolute and he starts talking about detonating with all his lovers and friends near him. These moments are honestly like virtual whiplash. I felt bad for my Tav who had to talk him down from the ledge. This is also a part where I'll talk about a more unique playthrough. Dirge, or just Evil Tav in general, you can keep Gale around for a good chunk of it as long as you kind of dangle whatever he wants in front of his face. He's also in a weird area where he will know something is wrong, but you can kind of talk him out of it. You have other companions that as soon as you start doing evil stuff, they are 100% out. Will and Karlak will absolutely not put up with that stuff. But Gale is so lost and so used to being led around like a stray dog that he's gonna let you. And honestly, if you can roll high enough, he'll know it's wrong. But as long as he sees himself getting what he wants at the end, he's happy to stay. His moral compass is not broken, more it's adjustable. And that's not the case with other characters. With Gale, if you're suave enough, he'll let you get away with some things that you absolutely should not be getting away with. And watching it while entertaining is a little sad. To see a character that is normally and naturally so positive and so for the good of the whole slowly turn into a self-centered I'll do whatever it takes person, not the best feeling if you're a, you know, if you're a girl who loves Gale the way I do. But it's interesting to watch, and I guess that's really all that matters in the end, huh? And that's it. Honestly, as much as I love Gale, I still feel like throughout all of his faults, he has so much good in him that it's worth going through all the irritating moments. But after doing this, I 100% can see how this could end up with you just wanting to stay away from him. I could also see how not wanting to give him your nice artifacts and not wanting to deal with the fact that if you ever try and do anything, even a little bit morally gray, he will disapprove. I see how that can get annoying. But I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Hopefully with the microphone. Ooh.